The arrow is still pointing up for the Ohio State linebackers, even though they're missing 2 first-round draft picks as they head out to training camp on Thursday. Today, though, it's a Wednesday on the beat presented by the Waterworks. It's a stock watch, kind of, because I said that the price is going up. But we don't know. There's still a little bit of uncertainty out there as we get into a position preview for the Silver Bullets as James Laurinaitis continues to rebuild, remake, reload. With a position group that has become, I think, once again, the heartbeat of the program. That's Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. We are 1 day away from the start of training camp. Who are we going to see out there first for the Silver Bullets on Thursday morning?
Well, I mean, we know Peyton Pierce is your man in the middle. We fully expect Christian Allegro will be out there a good majority of the time. And then it's a little thing called we'll see.
Ooh.
But I do believe you have to take into account what we saw in the spring, which is Riley Pettijohn was not out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it will always upset people because I know Riley is a fan favorite because of the recruiting pedigree and the way he flashed early last season when he got a chance to play. But it would be folly of anyone to assume that TJ Alford is not your third linebacker right now, because I think that makes the most sense. That is what this data tells us. That said,
it's also what the conversation tells us.
That said, there is no doubt that Riley Pettijohn has been inspired by watching what TJ did at the end of last season and in the spring, watching what Christian Allegro has brought to this team, watching the way that Peyton Pierce leads, because the conversation in the last month around Riley Pettijohn has gone tick, 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 tick back in the up direction. So when you're talking about the arrow pointing up, you got those 4 guys that I think James Laurinaitis will feel extremely comfortable in. And this is year 3 for him as the position coach at Ohio State, a full-time assistant. And he has not been 4 deep at linebacker. And then there's going to be a question, and that's probably 2 months down the road from now. How do you get to 5? Because Sincere Johnson is going to make himself difficult to keep off the field as well. And that is what we call in the business a really good problem.
Yeah, it's what James Laurinaitis has been trying to put together, recruit, develop through the transfer portal if we're going to include Christian Allegro in that, which we have to because I think he's going to be the starting linebacker next to Peyton Pierce. Just to put it in perspective, and I know that this isn't the first or 10th time that we've made this point, but if you think about where this linebacking group was 8 or 9 years ago, and you were in this desert of all Big Ten performers, and they still had some players that were going on to the NFL level and having a lot of success, a Jerome Baker, a Pete Warner, there was still talent that was coming to Ohio State. It was not being fully maximized, and the depth behind them was almost non-existent. And at one point, that was only 4 years ago that Steel Chambers had to be converted from running back over to linebacker to address, some of that talent void. So,
and one of your linebackers had to be converted to running back.
It's been a lot.
There's been a lot.
But that's not the scenario that James Laurinaitis has right now. And in terms of versatility, recruiting rankings, as you mentioned, Riley Pettijohn and TJ Alford and Sincere Johnson and what's happening in the future. That's a conversation for another day, what's going on the recruiting trail and the continued impact that James Laurinaitis is having there. If you're just looking at this group in particular, you have an Iron Buckeye with all kinds of just bursting with athleticism, and all Garrett Stover can really do is play special teams and make me want him to go play fullback, which, by the way, if fullbacks are back in college football, as I've been reading all summer long,
let's hope.
Just put him over there. Let's just do that. Anyway, I'm getting off track already, but if that is what you have, someone who is viewed as a locker room leader, who is an absolute tireless worker in the weight room and has made an impact on special teams, and you can't get into the top 5, that was not even close to the situation that the Silver Bullets had for most of the time that I've covered this program, if we're being honest.
No, and you can even go beyond that because he's not going to play this season, but Ohio State loves Braxton Rembert, the freshman who's from Mill Creek, Caleb Downs High School down in Georgia, who they flipped from Wake Forest at the end of last cycle. This is a much, much better linebacker room than Ohio State has had top to bottom, and which, again, I know it sounds nuts because you had 2 top 7 picks at linebacker a year ago, but there was nothing beyond those guys that you really felt like confident saying, we need you for 40 snaps today.
Well, there was one thing behind it.
Peyton Pierce was behind it.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. But he was playing 25 snaps a game by his own admission on this show a week ago. So he knows he's got a much bigger workload coming his way.
Yeah.
But now you have
I just don't want to get you in trouble with the Texas Tornado.
You've got 5 guys that you are like, hey, we can run this guy out here. And Sincere's not in that conversation yet, but he is going to be absolutely. So it is a reminder of how even in this era, a truly elite position coach is a difference maker. And James Laurinaitis is an elite position coach. He is an elite recruiter. And he is finding way. He's done the impossible. He's gone to Texas. He's gone to Florida. He's pulled the best linebacker from those states in the last couple of years. He kept Sincere Johnson home, and he's getting all these guys to play for him for a discount, which is like the ultimate metric at this point for Ohio State to be like, are you Brian Hartline-esque? And then yes. So now how do you build on it? You continue to have high-level draft picks. There's going to be discussion about Peyton Pierce in that role, not as a first-round pick probably at the end of the season, but if he's Cody Simon, and now you have...
Do you think he's Cody Simon?
I think that is the most natural comparison for Peyton, and I know people instantly leap to not Cody Simon for reasons that are idiotic. But when you look at the size, the athleticism, the intelligence, the sideline-to-sideline speed, the leadership qualities, everything that Peyton Pierce does, that is Cody Simon. And you maybe don't have Sonny Styles playing next to that Cody Simon, to this Cody Simon, or Arvell Reese.
It's getting confusing now.
But you have really, really talented pieces in Christian Allegro, TJ Alford, and Riley Pettijohn ready to complement and do it in different ways. And Peyton Pierce, however, is going to be your guy in the middle.
I think that's why I'm really interested to see how this plays out with the deeper array of options that Matt Patricia and James Laurinaitis have for that position group. Because if we're going to use 2 years ago as the template, and maybe we can't or shouldn't because Matt Patricia was not the coordinator of that defense, but at least in terms of personnel, if Peyton Pierce goes right in there and gives you exactly what Cody Simon gave the Buckeyes, okay, how close can Christian Allegro be
to some amalgamation
to Sonny Styles?
Yeah.
Because I think the Arvell piece, which again, some of this is
going to 24.
Yeah, 24 version of Arvell Reese. I think TJ Alford and Riley Pettijohn, either or both, can give you that.
Yes,
but and some of this is clouded by Sonny wasn't yet a finished product as 2024 went along. He got better as the year progressed. We all know what he was doing during the college football playoff run. But, if you think, and if you watch Christian Allegro, it's hard to, watch what he did at Wisconsin. And I thought it was really good. You and I were asked before the trip up to Camp Randall last year on a Freaky Friday mailbag. You can get those questions in for this week if you want to the Austin Birm Show at gmail.com. It's like, is there anybody on Wisconsin's roster that could play for Ohio State? And the only one that we came up with was Christian Allegro.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, he's on this roster. But, the things that he did there, which were all over, and everything that, Luke Fickell could have asked him to do, you still didn't watch it and be like, well, they would trade Sonny Styles for Christian Allegro. No one was going to do that. So what does 7-8 months in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, working with James Laurinaitis, working with Mickey Marotti, what does that mean? And how close can you get to, a guy who was the number 7 pick in the draft, and the Washington Commanders are already talking about using him in 7 different ways?
Yeah, it's a weird, again, this is not a math show. We've talked about it 1,000 times. But if we go to the 2020,
that counts probably not even accurate.
If we go to the 2024 season, and if Christian Allegro is 70% of Sonny Styles that year, but TJ Alford and Riley Pettijohn are 130% of that Arvell Reese, does it all work out?
I don't know. That's a complicated formula.
That's what I'm saying. What you know is that you've got really good pieces here. Now, the question is, how do they get used? Can they stay healthy? Do they get better as they go along? Because that's really where Sonny and Cody both in 24 took major steps up towards the end of the year. That is where we saw a year ago Sonny Styles go crazy at the end of his senior season in 25, where Arvell Reese and Sonny kind of flipped responsibilities and usage as a way of confusing defenses. So there's all those things that get put into the mix that you look at it and you say, well, you feel pretty confident in this group, but you also know there's no way you replace last year's starting linebackers with this year's, because that's just not realistic. But there was one linebacker Ohio State coveted in the transfer portal, and it was Christian Allegro. There was nobody else. Any conversation about Raheem Biles or anything else was completely air biscuits. Only Christian Allegro was on their list, and James Laurinaitis went out and got him. Peyton Pierce was extremely valued by Texas Tech, SMU, other schools after year one. He chose, I want to be here with James Laurinaitis. Like that sort of draw to James is really what I think is the most interesting part of this room, because these are the guys that, like, these dudes will run through a wall for James Laurinaitis, because he would do the same for them. And I think that throughout the years, we've seen that sort of symbiotic relationship between Larry Johnson and his guys. Mm-hmm. And now you start to see that developing at linebacker, which was just not the case in the last decade.
I feel like you are 130% more productive now that you're 70% of your previous size.
That's pretty good math, I think. I'm a lot healthier. I'm a lot happier. I move a lot better. I don't have to take a breath when I'm walking for a mile with a suitcase full of 80 pounds of camera gear over gravel at Penn State. Like you learn how to feel.
How do you
different.
know? We haven't been to Penn State.
I know. I'm sure it's still a big gravel pit out there, and they make us park a mile away, and then you have to walk through the cow farts. But it doesn't matter, because I can smell the cow farts better now because of Awaken 180, because I'm breathing easier.
That's great.
Thanks, Awaken 180, for helping me smell the cow farts.
Yeah.
In Happy Valley.
But I bet they're going to be super stoked about this.
Also for helping me feel different about myself, helping people talk to me different. The amount of people are like, what happened to you? I'm like, I just got healthy, and I went to awaken180weightloss.com and did it, and you can do the same thing. I lost 40 pounds in 8 weeks. He lost 40 pounds in 8 weeks. Brandon Beam lost 40 pounds in 8 weeks. It's not hard. The hardest thing to do is to convince yourself that you can try. Mm-hmm. And once you start, it actually was pretty easy. Go to awaken180weightloss.com, start your own journey, and you will not regret it.
Yeah. And seasons change, but comfort, folks, it doesn't. Call the Waterworks and Hetter Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing for maintenance, installation, and repairs, or visit online at thewaterworks.com. The Waterworks and Hetter Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, proud sponsors of Ohio State athletics. So I guess you're repeatedly on the record and have invested a lot in the stock market of Sincere Johnson. You said 2 months. I mean, I don't know how many opportunities are going to arise post-training camp, mm-hmm. because all these things come back to the difficulty of the schedule. Yep. There aren't a ton of opportunities to be like, well, throw Sincere Johnson out there. Let's just see if he's ready. It feels to me like that. Like James Laurinaitis has to know by late August if that is a possibility, if that's going to happen for this year, because otherwise then you run into a similar timeline that, let's say, TJ Alford had last mm-hmm. year, where he wasn't ready coming out of training camp. The top of the depth chart was different, but he kept working, he kept improving, and if a need had popped up by December, he would have been in line to play. But in the interim, if you weren't ready by August, then you weren't going to get any of those opportunities. Correct. Until after that season. So I wonder where that sits in your mind, because I know how high you are on Sincere Johnson.
The differentiator here is not how many reps will he play. It's, does James Laurinaitis believe he's ready for the reps if he has to play them?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a couple things about Sincere Johnson, most people just because they don't know. He was obviously the number 1 ranked linebacker in the country. He is a lot longer than people think. He's a lot more athletic than people think. He's much closer to Arvell Reese athleticism-wise.
Arvellian?
He's Arvellian, but he's also extremely high-level football IQ for a freshman linebacker. Like, Arvell coming out of Glenville did not know anything about football. Sincere Johnson is much closer to Sonny Styles from a football IQ standpoint.
Oh, here we go.
Than he is anyone else. There is a
he's in the Styles Arvellian.
There is a if there was
galaxy.
Like, if you combined his DNA, you might find some of both. Like, that is the type of dude that, like, I don't care if he plays a lot as a freshman. He's going to be ready to play. And that ultimately is the metric that James Laurinaitis is looking for. You're going to run into guys. You're going to be bumps and bruises. He also has an advantage in that maybe it's not an advantage because I've said over and over, I don't think Peyton Pierce will ever come off the field, but he's a true Mike where the battle for playing time with Christian Allegro, TJ Alford, and Riley Pettijohn is more in the will, but also like if Ohio State's running a Sam out there, then you can do other stuff. But Sincere is a true Mike, and he is going to
Freudian slip there.
He is going to stay there. So that gives him an opportunity to really focus on one spot, which when you're trying to play as a freshman, that's helpful. He's learning behind Peyton Pierce. He's learning from Peyton Pierce, and he's just a different type of cat. And so personality-wise, intelligence-wise, athleticism, spot on the roster, like it all lines up for him to have an opportunity to say, I'm ready to go whenever I'm needed. If that's November 14th against Northwestern and all of a sudden Peyton needs a load management day because you just played a hellacious 6-7 straight weeks, fine.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And it's not about how many reps he gets. It's about, is he ready to go? And I have no doubt he will be ready to go.
There's another component to that you didn't mention, which is the mentality and intensity, drive, because he could have shut down at the end of spring camp. He was working through a little bit of a minor injury. There was going to a need for a procedure, and we saw the way Ohio State managed that with some other players. And if you're a veteran, take that time. You don't need these reps.
Yeah.
Sincere Johnson is saying, I'm a true freshman, and I need to be ready if called upon by the end of this year. I'm not missing these opportunities, and I know that there are a ton of people in the Woody that were blown away by that. Now,
because there were other people in the Woody saying, you need to shut down. He said, give me 2 more days.
And look, I know that there's a fine line, and if something worse had happened to him, in hindsight, we would say, well, that Ohio State's got to be better about.
Isn't that the beauty of expendability? Being the 5th linebacker didn't matter if something else happened.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it would matter a lot to Sincere Johnson and his family, but
maybe.
I know that
there was a cleanup on aisle knee no matter what.
Yeah, well, but I know that could cut both ways. You'd say, well, Ohio State needs to be more cautious. They can't let the players make their own decisions on every case. But you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
In this case, since Ohio State's, and again, they weren't going to let him go out there if he wasn't able. And if there was a major risk, they would have shut him down immediately. Said, this is probably not going to get worse. It's up to the player, and the player says, thumbs up, I want to do this. I need to do this. That's the stuff that you really like. That's your teammates will notice that. Your coaches are certainly going to take note of what you're willing to put your body through to go out there and contribute for Ohio State. And I think that part has to go into that same deep bucket of attributes that has you as excited, and maybe more importantly, not you, James Laurinaitis and Ryan Day and Matt Patricia.
Do you think Stu's ever used cleanup on aisle knee?
I don't think so. I
think you should from now on. That's pretty good.
I don't think doctors
pretty good
and athletic trainers
just known for their use of puns.
I don't think they check out your chart and your X-ray and they come in and say, well,
I just felt like
here we go. We got to clean up.
It seemed pretty clear at the end of spring football. Ohio State walked into the locker room, said, "We've got knee surgeries over here and shoulders over here."
Aisle 7 is shoulders.
It is a really, really deep group. It is going to be hard for Sincere to play this season, but again, to the point, he's going to be ready. And then you have the other guys, the Garrett Stover, Eli Lee, and Braxton Rembert. It's a pretty deep group. I don't expect that any of those 3 are going to make an impact this year other than special teams, but Braxton Rembert is someone just to put a little star by the name for next year because he's
tall.
He's doing some things. He's turning some heads. He's put on a ton of great weight. He is super intentional about learning. He is one of these guys who very quickly in spring football, when we had a chance to chat with him post practice one day, said, I didn't know anything. I am drinking from a fire hose, but I love it. And when you see someone who acknowledges how chaotic this transition is to Ohio State level football, but then doesn't shy away from it and instead turns into it, those are the guys that 2 years from now end up finding a way to be like, oh, kind of forgot about him. And then they pop. And so watch out for him. He's definitely one to watch down the road. Garrett Stover playing fullback?
Come on, it's got to happen. I don't. What more do I have to do?
I don't know.
Beg? I tried that in spring and it didn't work.
When you have a player like Garrett Stover or a family like the Stovers and the legacy that group has now built,
Cows don't take days off, okay?
Cows don't take their birthdays off. Cows don't get any days off. But you also have to be honest with that player and say, we just don't know. We just don't know how to get you out here. And the beauty of someone like Garrett Stover is he never stops the work. And that's why he was an Iron Buckeye. And that's why people look at those releases and go, what the heck? Why is this number 6 linebacker an Iron Buckeye? Because he works his butt off.
Yeah.
And like those are the guys I think that fans eventually turn around and just say, I'm rooting for him. I don't care what happens. He's going to make a play at some point this season that people are going to like cheer like heck for a Stover again.
Yeah, it'll most likely be breaking someone in half, trying to return a kickoff on Ohio State, and he puts them in the dirt on the 18-yard line. It could be a forced fumble in that scenario. It could be a blocked punt. I don't know what it'll be, but I would love for that array of options to include lining up at fullback and just running into the B gap and destroying another linebacker, because I know that I have zero doubts in my mind that Garrett Stover could do that effectively, and I don't have that many doubts about handing him the football or throwing it to him, because I saw what's the term that they use for his twin relationship with Cade? A genetic twin, is that what it?
Yeah,
whatever it is, I don't know.
Genetic brother, yeah.
Genetic brother, cousin. I mean, he's an actual cousin, but like everything about him screams Cade Stover. Garrett Stover can do those things, and I think he should have an opportunity to, personally. Now, I know that the offensive staff doesn't really agree with me on that. And I don't think that James Laurinaitis would
and there's no charity.
Lose him, want to lose him from his room. Mm-hmm. That's an important part of the culture of the backerhood there. So, I get it. But he's earned opportunities to help Ohio State. That this is not charity. It's not given. He's done everything possible to be in position to do that. And he's not deficient in athleticism. He's not.
Yeah, there may be 4 guys on this team who can top 23 miles an hour straight line speed, and Garrett Stover is one of them. So he's a freak athlete. So
just do it.
Find a way.
Just do it. Life finds a way. Freaky Friday will find a way as well, as long as you continue to send those questions to us at the Austin and Birm Show at gmail.com. Training camp will find a way tomorrow. We will preview our last position group. We're going to lump the entire secondary together because we're almost out of time. And then
because it's super confusing to know who plays what.
It is. We'll get into that when the time comes on a Thursday episode of The Beat presented by the Waterworks. That will do it for this Stock Watch / position preview, as we are 1 day away from Ohio State hitting the practice field. He's Birm. I'm Austin. We'll see you tomorrow.